What's happening, guys? Welcome along to another episode of 420 News. And 420 News, guys, is brought to you by Martin's World. And I'm your show host, Martin Condon. Guys, my sincere apologies for keeping you all waiting there. I was actually on the phone with a reporter from the Irish Examiner. She was covering the story or the video there of the planting of the cannabis plants down on the Shandon footbridge. So apologies for that, but yeah, hopefully you can see the reason why anyway. Like, hopefully that story gets a nice cover there. She said it's only going to be a small piece in there, but look, any piece is better than nothing. And a nice one out there again to the member of the community who's always supporting the show and who actually got in touch with the journalist in question and sent her my direction. So you know who you are out there. Thanks very much. And to anybody else, guys, if you like what I've been doing, by all means, if you know somebody in the media, if you'd like to draw attention to anything I do, by all means, do definitely get in touch with them. Because anything we can do to help further the message, definitely it's going to be beneficial, and I'll do whatever it needs to be done. So yeah, that's done there, guys, and apologies again. And it's just set me back a little bit on the news. I was just getting things lined up there in the background. I was after going down a bit of a rabbit hole a while ago after doing a bit of a story on Mexico. But before we go to Mexico, guys, I'd like to just again remind you, 10th of July, guys, the major protest in Ireland where all of the cannabis community can get together, come out and show your support for cannabis reform in Ireland. If you're sick and tired of the oppression that our community faces in today's society because of the laws around cannabis, then the 10th of July at 2 p.m. in Phoenix Park is your opportunity to get out there and stand up and being counted. Stand up for your rights, as the great man Bob Marley said. That this is an herb that brings a lot of healing to our nation, and we all deserve access to it. We all have a right to access to it. The government never had a right to take away our access to it. So it's about time now that it's given back to us. So that's the 10th of July, guys, 2 p.m. And a little taste of what will be seen up there on the day, guys. A little civil disobedience. That's what the day is going to be about. It's about civil disobedience. Come, bring whatever form of cannabis that you consume, whether it be herb in a pipe or a bong or whatever it is, joints, oils, edibles, whatever it might be. Even if you're not a consumer and you just agree with the fact that other people should be allowed to engage in this sort of thing, then get out there and show your support. I know many people who've gone out during the Pride Month and they've participated in the Pride parades, and they weren't from that community. They weren't gay. They weren't lesbians, homosexual, whatever it is, They weren't that, but they still went out and celebrated the community's right to celebrate the community's existence. Much like ours, our community has a right to exist in today's society. We are not bad people. We are not worthy of being locked up for our behaviour. So I will engage in a little bit of civil disobedience just to give you a little taste of what will be seen above there on the 10th of July. So anybody else out there want to engage in this? Many of you probably already are. So again, guys, last year we had almost 1,000 people there. Some say we had over 1,000 people there, and I wouldn't disagree with that either. There was quite a lot of people up there, but this time I want to blow that number out of the park. I would like to add an extra zero onto that. I would love to see at least 10,000 people above there. For the numbers just to be overwhelming, that the media have to give attention to it this time. Last year it was largely ignored. I didn't see any write-ups after the event. An incredibly successful, peaceful demonstration by almost 1,000 demonstrators engaging in illegal drug use. And that wasn't worthy of the news at the time. So let's make it so that they can't ignore us this time, guys. I hope to see each and every one of you out there in the audience. Unless you've got a good excuse, you can't get off of work. Your granny's sick and you got to look after her. Look, these are all valid excuses. You'll be there in spirit. But for those who are fit and able, I hope to see you there. So we drive on, guys, and we go to Mexico, where the Mexican Supreme Court have ruled again that cannabis prohibition is unconstitutional. This being the 5th time in doing so. Cannabis is now effectively is just decriminalised across the nation, I suppose. This is up to 5 grams of cannabis only, with many proponents of legalisation, supporters of legalisation, saying, that this isn't enough, that this is still very problematic, and that the legislators know the ball is in their court to sort things out. So this is the Mexican Supreme Court. They ruled cannabis prohibition to be unconstitutional back in 2018. And in doing so, they gave the government, I think they gave them, was it a year or so that they gave them in order to kind of put in place a framework to provide access to cannabis, because while the findings it was unconstitutional, they didn't actually act upon it. It was like, look, you have they actually mandated that they formally legalise cannabis within 90 days. And the government then sought an extension of that on multiple occasions, leading to the recent decision there, where it was an 8-3 decision by the Supreme Court on the 28th of June, and that completely decriminalised cannabis use under Mexican law. So very positive findings there, but again, the fight is not over, with many of the activists over there still engaged in campaigns around the Mexican Senate. Again, shout out to Pepe Rivera, and he was a guest on episode 12, I believe, of the Martin's World podcast. That's up there on YouTube, over on Spotify and other places if you haven't yet heard it. Well worth checking out. Pepe's views there on how cannabis prohibition has violated their rights, and how even some forms of legalisation is still discriminatory towards cannabis consumers. So do check that out. I would love for people to kind of get that kind of insight into it. So you can join me in my way of thinking that, that if cannabis was to be legalised and we're allowed access to 5 grams, like that's discriminatory. Why not 10? Why is it limited at all? Like, there's no limitation on the amount of alcohol I can have, the amount of cigarettes I can buy. Why cannabis? Why is that limited? Again, if I can spark up a cigarette in a smoking area, why can I not spark up cannabis in the same smoking area? Why am I not afforded the same rights as a tobacco smoker as a cannabis consumer? Again, that's discrimination. So again, go check out that interview with Pepe Rivera. He's over there on the ground right now with the Plantón 420, which is Plantation 420, over there on the right next to the Mexican Senate. These are activists who set up an encampment where they took over an area that was disused. It was full of rubbish, overgrown, and they turned it into an amazing cannabis garden that's occupied by cannabis activists. They even have a few chickens down there and everything, so a real cool fucking movement, and I would love to see communities like that develop as well here in Ireland around the fight for the ending of the oppression of our community. But in looking into this, I kind of went and looked into a bit of the history around cannabis prohibition in Mexico. So the laws around the history of cannabis laws really in Mexico, it started back in 1988, really, where in a military hospital in Mexico, cannabis use was banned. But it wasn't actually officially banned then later into the 1920s. So first in 1988 there was some issue. Yeah, not 1988, in 1888. Apologies, 1888. There were some problems there in a military hospital, being blamed on cannabis, where there was violent outbursts and things like this. It's kind of almost the start of the reefer madness there, if you will. And then later in the 1920s, Mexico went on and banned the sale and recreational use of cannabis. And it wasn't until 1927 then they actually put in a ban on the export of cannabis then as well. So I wonder, was that relating to, maybe the more industrial hemp Because again, cannabis was being grown for its industrial uses in Mexico. Previous to this, it wasn't just being grown for the drug use. It was being grown for its the fibers that could be abstracted from the plant, and used for many wonderful bloody things. So you have to wonder what kind of an industry was inhibited by this prohibition around the export of cannabis at the time. Again, I couldn't find anything as to, how much hemp was Mexico exporting at the time. I was kind of trying to find these numbers in there, but I couldn't really find a lot. But then we fast forward until 1938, where the Mexican president, Lázaro Cárdenas, who was actually described as being a perfect politician, if that's even possible. But this is based from some statisticians and stuff like that who looked at this guy and his views and how he was came into power. And he's an intriguing kind of guy anyway, and he kind of came from humble beginnings, if you will, but also was on the front fighting for people's rights as part of the civil war of the 1920s there in Mexico. But as part of his presidency, he actually wanted to put in place a production, the production of cannabis under state control. Not just cannabis, but other narcotics also. He wanted to put that under state control. And the US reacted then by putting in place embargoes on all medicinal products coming out of Mexico. So that had to be abandoned. You have to again imagine what was robbed of us here, or what was robbed from Mexico here in terms of opportunities, because we all know what happened afterwards with Mexico, going into the 1960s and 70s with the rise of the cartels and all of that crap that went with it, all of the bloodshed that went with it. Imagine if this president wasn't being coerced by the US with these embargoes in order to abandon his plans to bring prosperity to his people, because he was acting on what was a belief that these policies would have helped the people of his country, because that was the type of person he was. He was doing things to help people, and he had to abandon it because of, again, pressures being put on the country from outside forces. Again, the US putting in place embargoes on medicinal products. Again, you have to wonder, if they were successful in putting in place, state control, and they never outlawed the use of these different products, and maybe Mexico could have been at the forefront under this president, of things like heroin-assisted therapies, and just had a little more liberal access to things like cannabis and other drugs too. Who knows what was robbed from him at the time. But I suppose we fast forward on then again another bit, where we go to the 1970s, where the Guadalajara cartel, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, they were the first Mexican drug cartel to rise up in Mexico. And I have a little video here, and hopefully I don't get pulled by YouTube for popping this up for you, but just give me 1 second and I'll put her up on screen. This is a little piece coming from the National Geographic's Narco Wars documentary series that looks at the rise of the Guadalajara cartel. So I'll just play this there for you guys.
This is really when the Guadalajara cartel came together. It was a group of Mexican drug traffickers saying, okay, let's share our resources.
So, I just pause it here for a second, and, you have to look at this, these are all individuals who are just a bunch of nobodies, to be very honest, a few of them maybe college graduates within Mexico, but these were just individuals within their community who seen opportunity, and they took it. And man, what did they do with that opportunity then afterwards is fucking tremendous.
Okay, let's share our resources.
One of the pioneers was Rafael Caro Quintero. He made what now is called the Guadalajara cartel, using the roads of Guadalajara to send drugs to the United States, especially marijuana.
He came from a small village in Sinaloa street thug, moved up pretty quickly. Smart though, for somebody with a very limited education, he saw an opportunity.
Yeah, an opportunity, man.
Empiezo a andar con Caro Quintero. ¿Sabes por qué metí al narcotraficante? Dice, porque llegaban los narcotraficantes y se llevaban las mejores muchachas. Traían los mejores caballos. Traían el cinto piteado, las camisas finas y traían las botas. Todo lo que yo decía. Yo era un pobre desarrapado con guaraches. Ese güey vende mota, ¿por qué yo no? Rafael empezó a vender toneladas y a mover mucho dinero, ¿no?
They pretended to be sophisticated, and they were really just thugs. They ruled by brutality, by killing people who disagreed.
And that's kind of it there at the end. I suppose an important thing to home in on again, you know, these people came from nothing. A lot of them just being farmers, had access to land, and it's quite well known right now that farmers are actually able to make 40 times more from producing cannabis on their land than they would from any other crop. So you tell me, if you're a Mexican farmer at a time when you know, times are hard, and you know, you can just plant these seeds and you'll get up to 40 times more for that acre of field than you will for an acre of any other crop. You'd be foolish not to do it, wouldn't you? And you see what happens then. These people become powerful. You know, it starts off with a little bit of cannabis growing, and that guy there that they talked about, Robertas, he started off as he says, a street thug, you know, a guy just selling cannabis, like, and you see what he became, the start of the Guadalajara cartel, and that's just the one of many cartels that rose up then after there. But I suppose the home in on the Guadalajara cartel, like, this guy only was afforded the power that he got because of his associations. So you think, you know, oh, drug dealers, whatever, the authorities are after them? No, well, the authorities actually prop them up. They support them in order to get results. Again, this is a numbers game. So it's said that, and it's shown actually, and I'll pop up on screen here, and it's well worth checking out this journal, CIA Assets and the Rise of the Guadalajara Connection. Again, I hope I'm getting that right. Even your man said it there, but I don't know if I'm even pronouncing it right anymore. But this is a study that was put out back in 1991, and it's a crazy, very eye-opening document, showing many connections there through the CIA and the different cartels, not just the Guadalajara cartel, many other cartels. And this is, again, something that's probably well known today. You know, we've, what was the movie American Ultra, you know, showing the involvement of the CIA and some of the stuff there. Crazy stuff, like, and you have to think about the damage that was done to the communities over there because of this war on drugs, an all-out war on drugs waged by a guy in America. I don't know, do I have this up there? But I had Nixon's little speech that he gave, you know, when he was like an all-out war on drugs, and he was talking about doing good for the community and having like unlimited resources effectively afforded to the authorities, you know, whatever they deem necessary would be afforded to them in order to do the good for society. But in reality, you know, you look at that time and the money that was afforded to this war on drugs, if they were to put that same money into some of the communities where they targeted people for dealing and things like that, you know, if they put the same amount of money in there, there probably would have been less people involved in the drug dealing because opportunities would have been afforded to them. A lot more opportunities would have been afforded to them. So again, this wasn't really a war on drugs, it was a war on people. Because you look at how they utilize the war on drugs around the world, because again, and sticking with Mexico, you know, in the 1975, in Mexico, they launched what was known as Operation Condor. And Operation Condor was actually a part of a larger operation that was dreamed up, I suppose, by the US in combination with many South American countries. And basically, Operation Condor was, I have a description of it here now, sorry. Operation Condor, which was basically, it was, it was an operation that provided weapons and manpower from the CIA and the FBI and national embassies in order to capture, kill, and disappear opponents of capitalism in Uruguay, Peru, Chile, Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, Bolivia, Paraguay, Colombia, and Venezuela. And it continued on Ronald Reagan right up until 1981, and under the guise that it was an operation against drug lords. And it was estimated that some 60,000 people were murdered during this period. And not only that, but some 400,000 people were arrested and detained. And you know, that's scary to think. A lot of this stuff, you know, under the guise of the war on drugs, they actually went in there and they targeted opponents to the right-wing governments that were in place, being propped up by the US. So an example of one of these operations in Mexico is they went into an area in Mexico where there was what they described as a guerrilla cannabis grower and cartel member, and he was basically fighting at the time, voicing his support for better policies for the farmers, the impoverished farmers in the area. So what did they do? They launched a massive campaign in his area to target himself and the community around him, because again, they were involved in cannabis growing. But they were able to label them, oh no, they're a cartel, these are guerrilla, terrorists, whatever. You know, that's what they were labeling them under the guise of this war on drugs. But all they were people who were hard done by oppressive policies from governments, and they were just trying to do well in life. Now, a lot of violence came afterwards, really. There wasn't a whole lot of violence really attached to the cartels until we got into the later 1990s and early 2000s and onwards, But back then, a lot of it was just being the building up, you know, just the tit-for-tat kind of stuff. Like, there wasn't a real escalation until later. A lot of the violence, actually, that came with it was from the government side, from the army side. Within Mexico, it was horrible to see some of the stuff that was done there. Again, going in, targeting just normal farmers and stuff like that who were just trying to get by in life. If they don't do this, like, they're not going to have food on their fucking table, like, you know. And meanwhile, like, the US is sponsoring millions. So under this Operation Condor, as part of this, the US sponsored over $115 million worth of equipment. But again, you have to look into this. Again, I did, and as I said, I spent a lot of time before the show kind of looking into the different things. But there was a lot of actual businesses and companies set up. But who were they set up by? They were set up by different CIA agents and friends of CIA agents. Like, you know, I see how this stuff works. And these guys then got contracts. These guys were gifted multi-million-dollar contracts at a time to go down and to fly these planes, to train operatives down there. And the whole thing is just a massive scam, a massive money grab, all off of the back of this all-out war on drugs waged by Nixon all those years ago. These people coming in and capitalizing off that, then setting up these companies, getting their buddies to set up these companies. You know, they would come in then on the board of the companies, and in contracts, the money would just start flowing. Money is being made, you know, and lies being told then on the success of their operations. So as part of the operation, they were spraying a chemical known as paraquat. This is basically a herbicide, and they were spraying it on what they were saying that were cannabis and poppy fields in Mexico. But a lot of the time, these cannabis and poppy fields were just, again, as I say, local farmers who were just trying to do well in life and try to supplement their income by having this more valuable crop in amongst their other crops. So when they were spraying the fields, what else were they spraying? They were spraying the farmers' foods. This was the food for the families of the farmers, again, you know, who were just trying to get by in life, and through no fault of their own, they were growing a crop that was a part of this fucking, I don't know, this corrupt, artificial war on drugs that was never needed to be in place in the first place. Like, and these people then, as a result of that, like, they were exposed to this incredibly harmful toxic substance. Paraquat was later shown to be attributed to the development of squamous meltoplasia. So this is basically kind of like almost precancerous cells, when it was, if this is to continue, so basically, this is occurs in the lungs due to toxic injury induced by carcinogens, by different toxic elements in the environment, and if the exposure is to continue, it will eventually lead to full neoplastic transformation, which is basically bronchial carcinoma cancer, and it will eventually lead to death. So they were exposing the farmers to this. But what they found out later, what happened? Oh, it was shown up in the US. Oh yeah, this stuff that we're spraying on the fields of the cannabis down in Mexico that's been supplied to our citizens here in the US. Oh yeah, it's actually shown up in the cannabis supply now. And this isn't really great. And it was, they kind of later abandoned it afterwards, like. But you know, they did continue it for quite a while, and they pushed heavily for it to be continued right up until the late 2010s in Colombia. I don't know, is there even talks at the moment of them trying to recommence these fucking aerial sprayings of, it was glyphosate that they were spraying in Colombia, and they abandoned it because of the cancer links of the compound. But another link of this compound was to Parkinson's disease. So again, you know, cannabis, which is very beneficial for people who have Parkinson's, now you've got a situation created because of this war on drugs, where people actually are at in one study, they found that there was a 75% increased risk of Parkinson's disease for people who lived within 1,600 feet of a field where this chemical was being sprayed as a herbicide. This is an extremely dangerous chemical, like, and the boys are literally just going along indiscriminately, just spraying it from the air right over fields where even below there could be people actually present and working, like, you know, much was the operation. They didn't care. In these guys' eyes, they were targeting what were seen as terrorists, as drug cartel members, like, you know, these are criminals, these are bad guys, let's just spray them. Who doesn't give a shit, like, you know, who cares if there's a pregnant farmer down there working the field with their husband, you know, and their child then is born with birth defects, as was seen in Mexico and Colombia as a result of some of these operations, you know. The devastation caused by this war on drugs is absolutely horrendous. The government actually then were praising themselves in the US Congress as part of some of these operations. They were turning around and saying, you know, some of this disruption in supply was as a result of these sprayings. But actually what was found out later, that during the late 1970s and early 80s, there was a drought in Mexico at the same time. So the drought ended up having a reduction of the yield of cannabis, I suppose, which ended up having a reduction of the import of cannabis from Mexico. But the boys were quick to say, oh, no, that's us. That's us. We're spraying from the sky. We're spraying chemicals down, and there's less cannabis available now because of us. But meanwhile, it was actually just an act of nature. There was less rainfall that year. There was more of a drought, and people were unable to produce as much cannabis. For a number of years, actually, that went on. Like, so it's funny enough. Like, there was a massive bust that happened also in the 1980s, where in one bust alone in a massive complex in Mexico, there was a seizure where it was estimated up to 10,000 tons. 10,000 tons, man. Imagine that, 10,000 tons. That's just fucking, I can't even picture what that must look like, of cannabis. Found that they estimated that at the time that cannabis was worth $2.5 billion. $2.5 billion. The Times magazine at the time called it the bust of the century. But what it actually did is it lifted the lid off of the lie that was being spun by the prohibitionists at the time, who were saying, look, our operations in Mexico are a success, like patting themselves on the back, like, oh, we're doing great. Because these guys were actually saying that the amount of cannabis coming out of Mexico at the time, they said Mexico had a potential to produce about, it was somewhere in the region of 1,000 to 2,000 tons of cannabis a year. What was found in that one raid was 8 times more than the estimates that the US Congress were telling, you know, that Mexico had a potential. You know what I mean? It really just blew the lid off of it, like, and it just really shone a light on the failure then of the operations going down there. But did it change things? No, nothing really changed. Unfortunately, as we've seen, things escalated in Mexico with bloodshed and violence. Then, coming with the rise of the many different cartels that were again, some of the cartels in Mexico were completely. The ranks were filled with ex-operatives of the CIA. So the CIA were down there training people in different forms of warfare, in different kind of techniques and drug running and stuff like that. And these guys then would abscond. They would just like, nah, fuck you, I got all my skills now. I'm going to go over there and set up my own cartel with my buddies down in a different area. And there was a few cartels set up in that kind of a form as well. Again, some of the operatives just literally got too big for their boots then as well, and they just started operating laissez-faire. They just started going away and they're not following orders, so they had to be dealt with at the time. Which again, when they go and deal with those people, they take them out with creative power vacuum and power struggle in the area. A lot of bloodshed and violence going on and down there. The 2000s, early 2000s, 2010s, man, that there was some violence going on in Mexico. The worst of it, and something I campaigned around in CIT at the time was the disappearance of 42 students who were going from their university to the capital city at the time I can't remember the name of the place there now off the top of my head, and I don't have it in front of me. But their bus was intercepted on the way, and they were disappeared. That as the term goes, that's a verb now. They were disappeared. I think the bodies turned up. They were found in an unmarked grave afterwards. After quite some time, it wasn't dealt with quickly. But it's said now that these people were actually the victims of corruption, so that the police were actually involved here in pulling these people over, or at least people dressed as police and having access to police vehicles too. And they disappeared these people and killed all of these young students who were campaigning, again, much like my buddy Pepe Rivera is, for drug policy reform in Mexico. So yeah, look, that is the history of it there. Well, yeah, as I said, 2015, the Supreme Court ruling was put in place. It wasn't until 2018, again, it was found. And 2021, it was actually acted upon by the Supreme Court because the government failed to do something. You have to wonder, is it the cartels or what? Keeping the government from doing something? Are they afraid that they're going to be made disappear someday? Who knows? But off the back of this then, guys, and apologies for staying so long on that one. I could have went into much greater detail there as to the CIA connection, some of the stories. But again, if you want to learn about that, watch Narcos. Narcos shows a lot of that stuff, and there's some really good documentaries out there as well that shows it. I don't need to be spending too much time in this. If you want, there's so much information out there to delve into. It's really interesting. It actually is, but it's sickening too. These people in power propping up these fucking these criminals, these organizations, and it's like, oh man, what's actually going on today? A lot of this stuff wasn't revealed until later on. What are we going to learn in 20 years' time as to the connections of maybe some of the cartels in Ireland, as to the connections of the Kinahans, who was operating there with the Kinahans, who was keeping who out of prison, who was tipping who off, you know what I mean? How deep did the connections go? We won't learn this stuff until a lot later on, until many years later. So who knows what we'll find out. But there was a poll then off the back of this that was put up on the Journal. So the poll was asking, should cannabis be decriminalised for recreational use in Ireland? And many people have had their say in this. And I'll pop it up on screen there for you all to see. So this was the poll that was up on the Journal. So the poll was asking, should cannabis be decriminalised for recreational use in Ireland? And at the moment, how many of you had your say? So, quite a lot of people actually. There is nearly, 8,500 people, just shy of 9,000 people there, I would say, after voting in this. And you have just shy of 80% of people voting yes. And less than 20% have voted a no, with 282 people who voted in this then kind of sitting on the fence and having no opinion really. So really what you're saying here is 17.5% of people voting no and 80% of people voting yes. That's a strong vote there. Like, again, this is just an online journal vote, but still you have to wonder, like, what would be the result of a vote of the Irish people if we were to get a vote in the morning on this? Like, how would that turn out? And again, it's a sad reflection of how out of touch our policymakers are with the Irish people, and the great opportunity that there is to do a lot of good in our society and a lot of benefits to our society too. As I said, €73 a second. That was the number thought up by the Irish hemp harvest by looking at just making some calculations from the Limerick Garda. That's an enormous amount of money. €10 billion every year potentially being generated from the sale and supply of cannabis in our society. Crazy. This fella, I'd wonder how he feels about it. Old Sod. Imagine Sod isn't able to corrupt anymore young people to be able to kind of have power over us, to be able to treat us cannabis users as shit on his shoe, because that's exactly what he does. But imagine what would be changed in our society if we did. We wouldn't have stories like this one. This is a horrible story to be reporting on, where a cannabis deal went horribly wrong and a boy 15 ends up stabbing a boy aged 12. And this is the story of Robert Bunkus, I believe his name is. Robert Bunkus, I think that's how it's pronounced anyway. But Robert Bunkus, who was 12 years of age, was found dead in a woodland area in the Fishtoft area of Boston on the 12th of December 2020. The 15-year-old who was charged with his murder or possibly manslaughter told the court that the victim, the dead boy, Robert Bunkus, became angry and produced a knife during an argument about the drug deal. So basically, the victim is said to have gotten angry because the accused showed up without the £50 that was promised as part of the deal. So the two of them were entered into some sort of a deal where they were agreeing to sell cannabis together. I don't know, where they're chipping in £50 each to buy £100 of cannabis and selling it on. And I'm not too sure, like, as to the story here, or to the truth of it either, like whether Robert Bunkus actually did produce the knife. Did the 15-year-old show up with the knife and just kind of, who knows really? Like, you don't know what's to believe here. But the facts of the case are, two young fellas engaged in a cannabis deal. One of them, someone produced the knife, and the older of the two ended up getting the better of the situation, and the younger then died because of it, and was found dead in the woods. Like, horrible. This was all avoidable. Young fellas shouldn't be meeting up to buy and sell cannabis. Cannabis shouldn't be worth it at all. Like, what are they doing it with alcohol? I've not heard of a story where a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old are meeting up to sell alcohol to each other. No, that doesn't happen. I know myself when I was a young person, I went to get alcohol. I was just ringing. It was often a friend's cousin who was 18, and they would go into the off license. They would buy the alcohol. We were giving them the money, and that was it. And a nice, simple, straightforward exchange and transaction. Nothing to it. No knives. Nobody getting, no tick. None of this stupid shit, like. All of that's about because of prohibition. Again, regulation works. Regulation would serve to protect society, so we don't see situations like this where young people are bringing knives, thinking that they're some sort of drug dealer. You know what I mean? They've got these naive views of themselves because of their age. Like, I can't help but feel sorry for them. Like, they're out there, they're watching shows such as Love, Hate and Scarface and God only knows whatever kind of shows that glamorise this kind of drug dealer lifestyle, as being able to afford the fancy flashy watches, fancy cars, the fast lifestyle, and it's crazy to think, that the young people are not going to go and try to pursue this type of lifestyle for themselves when it's such an the opportunity is so easily afforded to them in today's society. Again, all you need today, and it's here, it's beside me, is this. And every young person out there has one of these, and all this is a phone. And shout out to Major Smoke up there, like a little sticker on the back. But all this is a phone. And every young person out there has this. They can go onto it, they can set up any kind of an app that they want, Instagram, Snapchat, WhatsApp, Telegram, just to name a few, and all of these apps are being utilised today for drug dealing. So any young person is able to engage in this sort of thing, because, you know, drug dealers, the organised crime gangs out there, they don't care who you are. All they want to know is, do you got friends? Do you think you're going to be able to move my drugs for me? Grand, go for it. Here you go, man. Here's a fucking £1,000 worth of drugs. Don't lose them or I'm going to break your legs, and you better have my money next Friday or I'm going to break your legs. That's exactly what's going on out there. And then the young fellas, you know, thinking that I have to do this now. Like, you know, your man's going to break my legs if I don't fucking get the money for him. So I'm going to have to break somebody else's legs, you know, but I'm not strong enough to break legs. So I'm just going to bring a knife. Sick, man. It's sick. End this shit. End fucking prohibition. End drug prohibition. The Misuse of Drugs Act is not fit for purpose. It's putting our society in danger. It's putting our young people in danger. I've 2 bloody kids. I have a 3rd on the way. I don't want them to be walking the streets where there's young fellas out there who think they're fucking Tony Montana going around like with machetes and things like that. Like, you know, that shouldn't be an opportunity that's easily afforded to these young people today, like, and it's easily afforded to them because of prohibition. Prohibition is the main, the main reason that this is such an easy pathway for young people to go down. Until we remove prohibition from our society, sadly, this is what we're going to be seeing. And not only that, then, not only the young people getting involved in it, but for the drug users, this is the shit that we're going to be seeing. We're above in Derry. There was a bad batch of drugs that have been supposedly linked to 4 deaths. This is apparently pills, some counterfeit pills above there, a bad batch of pills that are going around, and apparently 4 people have been killed. But within this case then is an individual by the name of Quigley, and he's been charged in the supply of cocaine, cannabis, pregabalin and diazepam, and making an offer to supply drugs. He is further charged with possessing Class A, B and C drugs with intent to supply and simple possession of drugs. And the offences were alleged to have been committed between December 4th, 2020 and June 27th of this year. So this individual is after being caught with drugs and stuff like this, but he's up before the courts now, and one of the people who actually died in this was his ex-partner. So this fella's girlfriend died as a result of this bad batch of drugs that's going around, and now inside in the court they're trying to slam this on this individual. But the thing is, he's not making the drugs, he's not making the pills, this guy is actually taking them himself. Like, and that's something that he kind of said. He's lucky to have not have died from it himself, because he was taking these drugs himself. He was at the lower end of things. He was just on the receiving end. There was somebody at the top of it supplying the drugs into Ireland. There was somebody out there with a pill press with these different chemicals, and they were making the pills, and they're responsible. But what's going on here now in the court is they're trying to slap it on your man and put it out there in the media. And this is kind of the prohibitionist way of, look, we're doing good for society. Look, we're making an example of this person in order to deter people from engaging in this. But we know that does nothing to deter people. People see an opportunity and they're going to go for it. If there's people out there, they're poor and they're not afforded other opportunities in life. As I say, I'm lucky because of my mum and dad, and I was afforded opportunities where they got me jobs and they got me on the right path in life in certain respects. There's other people, they're not giving that same opportunity. Do you know, they might have mum and dads who themselves have been afflicted by addictions and drug abuse or other sorts of abuse there, and they didn't afford their kids that opportunity. And instead, in walks, you know, Mr. Drug Dealer, and he says, "Here, Johnny boy, do you want a job?" Do you know? And Johnny's young and naive, and he says, "Yeah, boy, I want to be like Tony Montana. Like, yeah, I want to have a drug empire. Like, I want to drive a flashy car, and I want to have all the old dolls." Again, go back to that little piece there, like in the National Geographic's thing about the rise of that cartel there, like how these people were glamorized in their area. They were the guys with the good horses, with the hot chicks and the fancy belt buckles. What is it today? They got the good phones, they got the flashy watches, and they got the fast cars, and the chicks that's kind of still there as well, like, you know. Oh, that's what Tony Montana say, like, first you get the money, then you get the power, then you get the woman. Or am I getting that wrong? I don't know. But like this is the lifestyle that these young people are looking at, man. And until we see a change in prohibition, like it's going to be young people dying on the streets, murdering each other, or again, drug users falling victim to bad batches of drugs. Like, come on, like have a bit of compassion. It's not the person's fault that they want to go and engage in drug use. You know, it might be the curious. They might be looking for an escape. Like who we to judge? Drug use, like seeking altered states of consciousness, it's a completely natural form of human behavior, and we're trying to make that illegal. No, like just stop. This is a violation of our human rights, and we're creating a sick society where 15-year-olds are murdering 12-year-olds because of 50 bloody pounds. 50 pounds, guys. Imagine your son is dead because of 50 pounds. Sick. Guys, a nice one there as well for the support of the show. Miss Stones from Bucket and I. Thanks very much, Miss Stones, for that support, sending in 420 there earlier on. Pop it back up and screen there again, guys. Just thanks very much for supporting the show. Also, Skatanist also getting behind the show as well in the super chats. So that should pop up on screen there. Skatanist, nice one for that as well. Says, bring the podge to the smoke up. 100%. Definitely will get podge to the smoke up for sure. If we have to go down there and drag him up myself, we'll do it. Nice one again, guys, for the support in the show. So we drive on, guys, and we come back to Ireland and we look at a couple of news headlines here from Ireland, where in one of them in Cork, the Garda dog unit have helped uncovered barrels full of cannabis. The cannabis was stashed in horse feed barrels. This is a story that came out of Mitchelstown. So the detective Garda Denise Fitzgerald says she came out of her concealed position in Ballygarda, Mitchelstown, County Cork, when Eugene Rice and gives his address here, arrived to pick up drugs at the remote location. So imagine this, man, the cops are down there hiding in a field, like, you know. Oh, that would have been something to see. Like, I wonder what's the story. Like, were they just sitting in a car parked in a lay-by somewhere, or were they actually like fucking out there in camouflage, like, you know, sitting in the field for about like 36 hours, like, you know, pissing in a pot and shit, like, just to get this fella, like, for his stash of, what was it, 70 grand's worth of, or no, what was it? How much did he get caught with? Jesus, I'm sorry, he had a debt actually. Sorry, I'm just looking to see how much cannabis he actually got caught with. It doesn't say here actually in the article as to how much he got caught with. Yeah, so what it does say is that the individual was doing the running of the drugs because he had a 70 grand drug debt on his head. He was 28 years of age, and 70 grand's worth of his of the drug debt, man. How do you end up owing for 70 grand worth of drugs? Like, I don't understand it. Like, but the defence barrister also put that debt at €80,000, which she said arose from chaotic drug use. Like, you show me an off license out there that would allow a person run up a tab of 80 grand. You show me a pub that would allow a person sit there and drink, you know, up to €80,000 worth of drink. Prohibition. That's the only reason why this is able to happen again, you know. Change this shit, like, stop this stuff. This man, if his story is true, if he was doing this stuff, he was out there moving drugs around because he owed a load of money, like, you know, that this guy unfortunately was a victim of his sickness, if you will. Like, if he was a drug addict and using fucking that much drugs, like, man, that's a lot of, even if it's cocaine, like, in fairness, like, Jesus, man, he must have had a nose like, who was it? Johan Whitney Houston, was it? Where the bloody wall of her nose was after falling away. Oh, man. But yeah, unfortunately, overseeing this individual's case was our buddy Saad. So Saad, overseeing this case, gave the man, saw it necessary to give him an 80-month sentence with 6 months suspended. So this guy's going to spend 12 months in court. Or in prison, but he also gave him another 12 months in connection to a suspended sentence that the guy had in relation to an assault case that happened back in 2017, where the judge gave him an opportunity at the time. So, do you know, I don't know what the nature of that one was. I didn't go digging deep into this story, really. But the guy was up for assault before the judge gave him an opportunity. But now the guy is up where he got caught with some cannabis. And this is like, nah, you're going to prison now because of cannabis. Like, he assaults a guy, you give him a chance. He gets caught with cannabis. And it's like, nobody wants to get assaulted. I don't think there's anybody out there who buys weed who doesn't want the weed they buy. If you follow my line of thinking there, like, do you know what I mean? And the judge gives a guy an opportunity in one instance and doesn't in the other, and imposes the second sentence then consecutively, where they don't run in line with each other. So he has to serve one and then serve the other. So in effect, the guy is actually going to end up doing 2 years in prison now, because he got caught with the cannabis. And again, he only got caught with the cannabis because, you know, he was addicted to drugs and he ran up a massive drug debt, as the story goes. Yeah. We drive on, and Miss Dow is also getting behind the show there as well. Says, see you on the 10 podge, LOL. Nice one for that, Miss Dow is. Much appreciated, guys, for your support of the show as always. And just throw it out there, guys. I'm not too sure if it's any easier for you, but there's a link in the description of the show which says support the stream, and it gives a link in there. If you click on that link, it'll bring you to a window where you can, I think through even PayPal, again, get behind the show, and you can have your chat come up on the screen. And it's just that I get more of the show gets more of the proceeds then from that. Whereas through YouTube, take a significant portion of your support. But again, I would imagine if you are super chatting through YouTube, that does stimulate the algorithm to get my show out in front of more people. So by all means, if you're happy with that, I'm sure that's a good way to contribute to the show as well. We have to get this algorithm to help get the show in front of more people. And look, it seems like Super Chat is one way of doing that as well. So again, nice one, guys. Thanks very much. We go on to another headline where a man in a Laois man had deals of cannabis in his car. So this is a story coming out of Laois, where or Port Laois, yeah, where a man was basically driving his car, got stopped at a Garda checkpoint, and they smelt cannabis coming out of the car. They found in the car what was valued at €300 worth of cannabis in 5 individual deal bags. The guy, when interviewed, was uncooperative. However, he was cooperative during the search. So when brought up before the judge, then it was told that the man had worked. He was a single man, lived with his parents, worked in construction in the UK after doing his leaving cert, and had returned to Ireland, where he had worked with Irish Rail and in a warehouse. He was temporarily out of work, and on the supply element, he was giving some of his own stash to a number of acquaintances, and it was not particularly commercial enterprise. The judge, Bernadette Owens, said that she took into account the fact that he was in no way obstructive to the Gardaí when his car was searched, and she ordered a restorative justice report and said that if it was positive, she would strike out the matter. So again, a lucky one fair for this individual, but you know, like, this guy, if you were to look at the situation, he's got caught with 5 bags of cannabis. Now, his story is he's going to give it to his friends, but look, he's just admitted to drug dealing. Like, if this is such a serious crime as they say it is, like, well, what's the story with the restorative justice and all of this kind of nonsense? Like, shouldn't this guy be going to prison? Like, no, the whole thing is a joke. Like, end this prohibition once and for all, like, and stop this nonsense. Restorative justice, all it is just another way of terrorizing a citizen of the state. That's exactly what they're doing. How many people have been brought before the courts and ended up having to give up cannabis in order to produce clean specimens of urine for the urine analysis? You know, this is state-sponsored terrorism. Like, it needs to fucking end. Like, this guy got caught with cannabis, which he was going to bring and share with his friends. Like, come on, like, whoop-de-bloody-do. Like, where's the benefit to the taxpayer by paying the cops in order to be wasting their time? Like, while the cops are at the checkpoint dealing with this individual at the side of the road, what if there was a person driving up, like, and they had a victim of human trafficking involved in there? Like, you know, you've got a young kidnapped kid, you know? Meanwhile, the cops at the side of the road for 15-20 minutes, like, you know, dealing with fucking the Pablo Escobar of bloody Port Laois, getting caught with 5 deals of cannabis. Jesus, lads, we're on to one here now. Like, we got a big fella. Make sure you go through his phone now, get his password, lads. We've the power now to get his password. Obviously, they didn't back then, like, but they're going to be getting it soon if the that bill passes. Like, but imagine, like, you know, what did they miss? Like, what went through the checkpoint that they missed? While dealing with your man with his cannabis, like, money for, you know what I mean? Like, a great value for money there for the taxpayers, like, sick, like. Do you know what I mean? Meanwhile, like, you know, a kidnapped kid gets away, like, do you know, a beaten wife is driving past there now, like, who if stopped, like, the cop might have been able to kind of intervene or something like that, you know. What a waste, like, do you know, how long more are we going to continue to carry this fucking burdensome fat? Like, this is literally just a big, excessive fat, like a big cancerous lump in our society that we need to remove. It needs to be removed at once because it's corrupting our society. Like, the longer it remains, the more bigger it grows, and the more fucking pus-filled it is. It's horrible, man. Get rid of it. Prohibition. It's a cancer on our society. And we drive on because, again, another drug runner up before the courts here. This individual was in Dublin and running heroin supplies to Cork, and he was under threat to declare €77,000 debt to the point where his home was burned out, and he now has been jailed for 4 years. So this individual actually had his home burnt out as a result of the money he owed. Ah, man, like, this violence is out there. Like, imagine living next door to this individual, you know? Imagine that. And Laois is also getting behind testing 1 2. Legend Laois. Thanks very much for that. $1.18. $1. And that was probably €1 you donated. Comes up as dollars. I love it. But again, look, this individual above here running heroin from Dublin to Cork, he was indebted to these individuals. They fucking harassed him, and they burnt him out of his home apparently. And now he's going to be serving 4 years in prison. So that's costing us, again, the taxpayer, €100,000 a year on average per prisoner in Ireland, you know. Crazy. And I wonder where that value is now at the moment because of COVID. That estimate of the cost per prisoner per year was coming from 2019, a time before COVID, the pandemic was put in place. Since then, they released prisoners in order to reduce overcrowding in prisons, because, again, at that time, I was reporting as to the occupancy of Ireland's prisons. Many of them were operating at overcapacity. Some of them were at almost 110% capacity. Do you know? That's crazy. Like, imagine being up there working in that environment as a prison officer. You know, they're over capacity, and you're probably understaffed as well, and underpaid as well at that, you know, for the level of danger that they're being put in. But again, you know, unfortunate for this individual that he found himself in front of who other than Judge Sean O'Donovan. So Judge Sean O'Donovan gave this individual 4 years in prison for what he had what he had in combination of heroin, cannabis and cocaine with a street value exceeding €13,000. So at the time, this was at the Travelodge in Frankfield here in Cork, back in 2017 also. So again, this case is going through the courts for 4 freaking years. 4 years this has been going through the courts, like, and it's only being dealt with now. So this individual at the Travelodge got caught with €18,000 worth of heroin and €2,000 worth of cocaine and €1,600 worth of cannabis, and a considerable amount of mixing agent also, and a weighing scales. So your man was going to be stepping on the drugs. Again, what was the mixing agent? You know, it'd be interesting to know what it was. Like, was it mixing agent for the cocaine? Was it something dodgy for the heroin? Like, who knows? Like, but again, this information is never really relayed out there to the public because they don't really care about protecting the drug users. It's all about, you know, just reinforcing their war on fucking drugs, and it needs to end. So, yeah, this guy also had gotten a 20-month sentence imposed on him in March of this year in Dublin, and that was also for drug dealing. So this guy was actually in prison already anyway, like, you know, much was his problems with drugs. It's crazy. Like, is this value for money? Like, is it really? This guy, if his problem is a drug addiction, surely he should have been getting help. And you don't help people by punishing them. You know what I mean? Like, imagine, like, if you punished a person for being obese, you know, obesity is another health problem faced people, much like addiction as a health problem faced a person. Imagine if you punished people. Imagine if you were walking down the road and you were a bit tubby and the cops pulled in and said, hey, come here, come over, step in the scales there and let me get out my body fat calipers. Come here, your BMI is actually over the allowed amount, you know what I mean? Come on in here, look, and we're going to punish you now for having a health problem. We're bringing you at the fat camp. You know? That's exactly what we're doing with drugs, like, you know. We catch people with drugs, we catch people for drug dealing, and, you know, it's like, we're going to punish you now for this, and we're going to bring you to, you know, criminal camp, where you're going to meet and mingle with other criminals, and there's not really any real emphasis on rehabilitation. You look at drug use, the likelihood of reoffending is in the high 90s. You know, even drug dealers also, again, high 75 percentile, you know, the likelihood for reoffending should be low for crimes, you know, if the punishment is the work. And it just goes to show that the punishment here is not deterring people from engaging in the behaviour. Sad. And in the final headline then for you guys, today we have a student in UCC who was observed engaging in what they're describing as a drugs transaction. Again, I before I get into this, I'll just get into the headline for the story for you. So this was during Rag Week back in February 2020, when Garda observed a student involved in a drugs transaction and has now been convicted of having cocaine for sale and supply. So this was James Harney from County Tipperary, and this individual was never in trouble in his life and has now pleaded guilty to charges of possession of cocaine and having the drugs for purpose of sale and supply to others. His solicitor said the accused had never been in trouble before, had attended for urine analysis and had completely distanced himself from drugs. He said the supply element entailed him buying cocaine with money that he and his friends had chipped in together, and he would collect the drugs and it would be shared between himself and friends. The solicitor said the defendant was extremely anxious to avoid a conviction and was prepared to do anything for that to happen. Again, you know, emphasis there on the anything, you know what I mean? I'd say all it's short is a wink and a nudge there from the old solicitor to the judge in the courtroom when he's saying this. In other words, like, you know, my client probably comes from a well-to-do background, you know, that was probably the story as well, you know, probably from, I don't know, County Tipperary, let's just say, like high potential here, that he's coming from maybe a farming family that are well-to-do and have a good standing in the community, and they've all Fine Gael all their life, like, you know, I don't know what the background might be like. And again, apologies, James, for putting that to you, like, you know, I would hate to be associated with it, or being labelled a Fine Gael voter. Much worse than being labelled a drug dealer anyway, at least. So apologies there for that one, like, but you know what I mean, we're then getting at in this, like, that the solicitor is in there painting this picture as his client. He's never been in trouble before, he's doing well, he's in college, and this was just a minor slip up, judge, you know what I mean? Afford him an opportunity there and we'll do whatever is necessary. Unfortunately, the guy wasn't spared a conviction, as the solicitor was trying to get towards, you know, but instead he fined him gave him a €500 fine for the possession of the cocaine and a €750 fine for the sale and supply of the cocaine. No prison sentence was handed down at all in this instance. So again, unfortunate that this individual received the conviction, but again, it's quite a large amount of money after being fined to the person. If you're, again, not well-to-do, you probably wouldn't be coming up with this money and you'd be going to prison. Or most likely, you know, if you were already out there, let's say, you know, you were some young fella walking through Mayfield with a hoodie on, and again, the exact same story, you're just after picking up, you know, a bag of cocaine for you and your friends chipped in for it, and no, the cops, man, that they're going to do you for it, like, because you have what they're valuing here is €688 worth of cocaine wrapped in 8 wraps. Like, that's, you know, that's straight up, like, man, you're going to get done for dealing, like, you're going to be locked up most likely, like, you're probably not going to be afforded the same opportunity that this individual was. So again, like, there's a bit of a two-tier system there that's going on. You know, that this person's probably maybe going to be easily able to pay off this fine, Maybe he might actually even appeal the convictions or something like that. Maybe the family are able to afford a better legal representations, barristers and whatnot who'll get him off with it. Like, but do you know, it's sad to think that there's a student out there now who has this conviction not only for drugs possession but drug dealing also. That's a horrible thing to have as a young person going forward with your whole future ahead of you. This young person here in this case, what age was he? Does it give his age? No, it doesn't give his age, but I would imagine, you know, maybe in his 20s, being a student here in UCC. Employability, prospects gone out the window, you know what I mean? I'm now competing for a job with other graduates who don't have this criminal conviction. And it's so recent as well, you know? This guy, you know, potential suicide victim soon. Who knows? Like, you know, the damage is going to be done now to this person's mental health because of this conviction. Their image, their self-image, you know, their view, their potential in life it's going to be so much more diminished because of this. And how does that serve our society any good? Where is the value for the taxpayers in this? How does it help us at all to have a person who's less employable in our society, you know, who's going to be a burden on the taxpayers then as a result of this, you know? Maybe he doesn't come from a well-to-do background. Maybe he's already, after being a burden on the taxpayers, if you will, you know, benefiting off of backed education and SUSI grants and stuff like this. He's out there, do you know what I mean? Getting up early in the morning, as Leo would say. He's one of those people, you know, who's trying to do good for himself in life. And through no fault of his own, wanted to have a nice evening out with his buddies, like, you know, get an old bag of coke to help the party go into the early hours of the morning, like, and just, you know, gets caught, like, and now boom, whole future gone, job prospects, you know, it's just not there anymore. Why bother? Drop out of college, you know what, I'm going to drop out of life altogether. Do you know, who knows where this could send a person, like, you know, if they're not strong-willed, if they're not strong-minded. You know, you don't know how weak a person is. Why was this person engaging in the drug use at the time anyway? Like, maybe it was covering up something else that was underlying now. And now this person's even more worse off, like, you know? Fucked up, like. So that's it, guys, for today. Nice one, everybody, for tuning in. And thanks very much there as well to Irish Hemp Harvest, who got in the old support of the show also, saying vibes surrounded with little purple stars. or that was the little emoji that you sent in with it. It gives me a description of it here when it pops up on my site. So nice one for that, Irish Hemp Harvest. I actually have some Irish Hemp Harvest stuff here beside me at the moment. I got sent out a little gift pack from Irish Hemp Harvest, and I have to say I'm really blown away. But I had a lovely little message there as well, and I have created a video. I've done my little unboxing, as I said, so I'll get that uploaded there once I get it edited. Just haven't gotten around to doing it there yet, Irish Hemp Harvest. But thanks very much. I'll pop out some of the stuff. Yes. These I love these little pre-rolls from Irish Hemp Harvest. These were very nice, raw as well. So lovely stuff. I don't know if this tag is going to come up on screen. Special sauce, 17.5%. Nice stuff. Even got some old some pollen here. SC. 5 grams, some like nice stuff. So yeah, nice one for that. Also got sent out some raws and some filter tips as well, some isolate. I'm interested in the isolate, all right. While not too big a fan of it. Like, I see the potential there for it in products and stuff like that. I'm a big fan of full spectrum, as you all know. So. John Finnegan, you have a drug problem, so we are all going to put you in jail. You will have access to more drugs than you can get in the streets. Yeah, that's so true. And not access to more drugs, but to less of a variety. So you've access to more harmful drugs, I would say, there in that. Much was my experience in prison here in Cork anyway. And the stuff they have in there, like, it's not good at all. Like, the boys will be smoking the spice and everything, like, you know. You'd be, nah. And then the way they have to get it in there then as well. No, thanks. Marie McCloskey, the war on drugs creates crime along with jobs for multiple professionals involved in criminal justice system, rehabilitation, general healthcare and so many more industries. We need crime to keep the system here in Ireland afloat. Legalising recreational drug use will cause less crime, which translates to even more unemployment than exists today. The only gateway cannabis is the gateway for the Garda to pick out the weak ones and get them to rat out their entire network. One by one, they sink each other, all too afraid to go to jail. I've seen it time and time again nationwide. The country's a joke. Yeah, we certainly have had a very fractured community out there. There's been very little community, I suppose, across Ireland in terms of cannabis, but there is efforts there now. I've seen lots of efforts within the last couple of years to unfracture that network, that community that's there, to really put the pieces together now, and for us all to unite. So, you know, I think this fear we had of one another is slowly going away. More and more people are more aware, more willing to trust one another now. Seeing, you know, the flourishing of a community that was once, you know, not really represented in Ireland at all. So long may that continue to happen. Other comments out there, guys. Just gonna look through your comments. Sam Collins says, like that, hit that like button, guys. And yeah, that like button has been smashed. Nice. Don't break it, guys. Make sure you don't break it so other people can press it. Dennis the Grower says, weed went legal here in Michigan, nothing changed, only people trying to sell overpriced bud in dispensaries. I've been growing own, do not purchase cannabis. If I did, it is everywhere and cheaper. Yeah, that's it. Like, you know, nothing really changes as such. Like, the same people are going to use it who are going to use it. Maybe a couple of more of the curious people might get off the fence and try it out than would have before. You know, that might be the only thing that would have changed, you know. A very small percent of the population who would have not used cannabis because of it being illegal. So, yeah, little changes. Other comments. Straw Clips says, it's pure discrimination against smokers while the Gardaí are at home taking their Zans and drinking their wine while beating their wife. And Croncy is asking, how do I donate? Just in the description in the link, Cron. Again, Joe, follow the link there to support the stream through the Streamlabs, and yeah, 100% of the proceeds will go there. Again, if you use the given to a friend link, I believe, through PayPal. Straw Clips, it's pure discrimination against smokers. Well, yeah, sorry, I read that one. Hype TCK says, anyone see the FedEx van from Mexico full of illegals, fat officer running in circles trying to catch them all? I didn't see that one at all. Hype RTCK saying, I donated through euro and I went through in dollars. I hope they don't strike on the exchange. Nice one for that. I see that there actually is Dr. Pisces Guitar Channel, is it? Nice one for that, Dr. Pisces Guitar Channel. Also getting in and out super chat into the show. Legend. Anyone else out there with the comments, guys? Hype TCK saying, your dog unit looks like bomb disposal. Bet that's where all the proceeds of crime money is going. Community groups, my arse. Skatana says, the war on drugs, or should I say people, it is the biggest scam in history of humanity. A devious machinery of the social control with added benefit of wealth transfer from the poor to the rich elite. Yep, definitely couldn't disagree with that one. Sorry, just looking for some lubrication there for the old throat. Wow, much needed. To get a reminder on here to tell me drink every 15 minutes or something. Sometimes I just soldier on and just completely forget then to hydrate. Wow. Mark Andrew Morgan, you are so right. Nobody dies from cannabis overdose. Compare it to paracetamol, where an overdose is so easily done by accident. only extra dose can cause overdose. Only one extra dose can cause overdose, which starts by shutting down organs, causing permanent damage. It's also wrong. And you look at that with paracetamol, for example. Regulation works. Like while I can walk into a shop and I can still buy a packet, and a packet is a lethal amount, they limit you to one packet. Do you know what I mean? Because that's regulation working. They have to have some trust for people. Imagine if they limited it at where you could only go into a shop and you could only buy 2 paracetamol. That was it, 2 paracetamol at a time, and you have to go back every day to get it. Like, you know, that's over regulation, and that doesn't work. And Dennis the Grower says, hello from Flint, Michigan. Nice one, guys. It's good to see people out there from different parts of the globe as well, you know. Over there in Michigan, where cannabis is legal, as you were telling me there earlier on also. Man, I wish we were able to see that sort of thing here. I wish I was just able to grow my own cannabis, and it wasn't a criminal offence like that. It wasn't going to see me landed in jail for 4+ years, you know. They actually could lock me up for a maximum of 14 years for growing cannabis here in Ireland if the judge seen a fit. If I was up in front of Judge Sean O'Donovan, like, and he was like, oh, Martin, come here, like, we caught you with 30 plants. And I was like, but Judge, come on, I was planting them in a protest, like, leave me off. Like, not Martin, 30 plants, look, that's over the old 13,000 there. So that's the minimum mandatory there of 10 years, look, but I can actually give you 14, so I'm going to give you that because you keep slating me in the show. I want to make an example of you, Martin. Imagine, like, 14 years of a person's life, like, taken away. Imagine the untold damage that's going to be done because of that. Like, I've 3 kids that are going to be growing up without a dad for 14 years because, what, I grew cannabis. Like, stop, like, give me a break. Like, change the sick way of dealing with things that sees fucking young kids as young as 12 getting stabbed and murdered, like, because of 50-pound cannabis deals. Like, stop, like, end this, like, stop, like, just stop on this nonsense once and for all. And everybody get out there and demand that it stops. Like, don't ask for it, don't be nice, don't ring Frank Vian and, you know, Frank, will you legalise weed? No, like, feet on the street, get out there, civil disobedience, guys. Fuck this, make the law illegitimate. Like, don't give it legitimacy by following it. Do you know what I mean? As I was saying a number of times before, like, don't be a part of your own oppression. These laws are oppressive on us as a people. Don't be a part of your own oppression. Don't give in to it. I had a couple of commenters saying, you know, I don't care what they say, I'm going to smoke cannabis anyway, like, you know. And I hope they weren't saying that, and that, like, I'm not going to go out there and protest, because they were saying, I don't care what the government do. You should care what the government do, because if the government come and catch you with your cannabis, man, they can lock you fucking up, like, and there's very little you can do at that point. Like, the government don't care if you don't care what they say you can or can't do, you know, unless you do it in unity and in such large numbers that they just are overwhelmed. They can do nothing about it. And again, May 10th, guys, or May 10th, sorry, July 10th, guys, that's your opportunity. Get out there for the major protest. And that's for Cannabis Reform in Ireland, kicking off at 2 p.m. above in the Phoenix Park in Dublin. That's your opportunity to get out there and to show and stand up for your beliefs. If you believe cannabis prohibition is not welcome in Irish society, get out there and stand up and be counted. It's the only thing that's going to bring change in this country. If we were to sit around and wait for the politicians to do it, hell, even Gino Kenny says that we're going to have to wait 5 to 10 years. Fuck that. I want it done now. This can be done now, and we can get it done this summer. Let's see what happens July 10th. Like, it's a massive community out, like, and don't drop it then. Like, let's not come back next year. Like, let's come back next week. Let's come back the next day. Let's do it the Pepe Rivera done, and let's fucking set up our encampment. Let's go up there next to the Dáil. Let's go up in Stephen's Green and pop up a few tents, pop a few seeds, and start growing cannabis outside of the Dáil or outside of the convention centre. Let's do it. Like, this is a problem that's not going to go away without action from the government and without action from the people. And most importantly, if the people are not acting, and then the government are not going to act, they're going to sit in their hands for as long as they can until we force their hand. And again, Saturday is just going to be the start of things, guys. This is only the beginning. Again, and I hope that it's only the beginning. I want to see this snowball. Snowball down the hill, the proverbial snowball that just once it starts rolling, it gets bigger and it keeps gathering momentum to the point that it's just unstoppable. And we're going to fucking smash every prohibitionist that gets in the way of us. You know what I mean? United, we fucking stand, guys. Divided, we fall. Think about it. A snowball rolling down the hill. All the pieces of snow have to stick together in order for the snowball, in order to keep it maintaining its momentum down that hill. As soon as the pieces of snow lose their cohesion, the snowball disintegrates to dust. You know what I mean? We're stronger together, guys. Boom. United. That's the way, you know. So yeah, guys, a lot of ranting there for me. I'm going to pack up a bowl and just see what recent comments that have come in. I see a lot of people saying really well said, and nice one for that, guys. Again, like I'm just really passionate about this. Like I've been thoroughly affected in a very negative way because of this law in our society, and that's where my passion comes from. Like it's all coming from the heart, like because I've been affected by this. Like I've lived it, so I want to see that shit change. Sorry, just emptying the bowl. So guys, get your comments in there, guys. If you want any questions, any observations you might want me to bring up there, get them on in before I sign off there in the next 2 minutes. Gonna blaze up another bowl of civil disobedience before I get out there and do a bit of Thai boxing. Don't forget to drink some Ishka. No, certainly will do, Skitanist. Give you a couple of extra seconds there to get your comments in. Yeah, united we stand, united we will fight. Go on, Pod, you said it, man. Feed the birds, shipped to the UK. Well, only one way to find that out, Billy Burndred, and just put in your details and see if they'll do it. If not, get down to your local health food store and you will be able to buy some good quality organic raw hemp seeds. Make sure you don't get the shelled kinds, but get the raw organic hemp seeds, and you can just start feeding the birds with them as well. It should be as little as about a pound or two, and it'll get you like a 250 gram bag, and 250 gram bag is a couple of maybe 1,000 or so seeds, like a couple of hundred seeds. So definitely, like it's a worthwhile investment, and I've seen some great results coming in there as well from other people engaging in the Feed the Birds campaign. Civil disobedience, guys. Overgrow this government, like. Oh no, Kitmar. Kitmar saying there that they got ripped off today from effing dodgy dealers. Legalize it fast and soon, for feck's sake. Sorry to hear that, Kitmar. What was the crack? Did you get underweighted? Did you get dodgy stuff? Did you get given CBD buds instead of THC? What was the crack there? How'd you get ripped off? Did you just straight up rob your money? Be curious there as to know a bit more. Yeah, Hype TCK saying that Little Collins posted to the north, so yeah, maybe they do include the UK there as well, so on the Feed the Bird stuff. So again, it's not going to hurt to try. John Finnegan saying, had a conversation with a dude last night, said he's anti-drugs while he was outside the pub smoking a fag and drinking Guinness. When I pointed out that they were also drugs, his responses were, but they are legal. I asked if cannabis was legal, would you use it? And he says, don't be stupid. He said, contradict yourself much, I replied, and then he got no answer. People, man, they're so ignorant. Like, they don't understand how much of a hypocrite they actually are talking. They're literally talking out through their arse, standing there half cut, after a few pints, smoking a fag. Like, I had my uncle do it to me there one evening as well. Like, he was half cut, on about like illegal drug use and how these drug users should be fucking, you know, killed and stuff like that. I was just like, are you hearing yourself at all, man? You're sitting here drunk talking about killing drug users. Imagine if the government, you know, overstepped their bounds into your life and said your drug was of choice was illegal, and he just couldn't see it. He just like, no, that couldn't happen. Sure, my drug is legal. And I was, but cannabis was once legal. It wasn't always illegal. Like this was a completely normal thing in society, and no, he just couldn't see it, man. Ignorance, it just prevails. Kitmore update there, 2.5 grams for 50 quid, all good, just won't be going back there again. Stop. When I actually got a Snapchat off of somebody sent directly to me and all, like no shame like in doing so, like I was very close to screenshotting it, but they were like 2.8 for 50 quid, cash only, going around the city today, message if interested. I was like, come on, there's probably people actually going to take that offer up. Like, they're like, I can't get nothing else, fuck it, I'll give 250 quid for 2.8 grams. Like, do you know, so much like yourself, you feel ripped off here in this situation, but there's still other people out there who would be like, well, I can't get weed anywhere else, and they would knowingly buy 2.5 grams because, you know, they're just like, well, I want a bit of cannabis. Fucking, I have 50 quid. What good's 50 quid if I don't have cannabis? Fuck it. They just give it in, like, do you know what I mean? What's that saying? Like, you know, if what is it? Yeah, if you have weed, then you don't need money, but if you have money, then you probably need weed. Yeah. Miss Stone's also saying, Miss Stone, saying, thanks for doing what you're doing, Martin. No bother at all. No thanks necessary, but it's always appreciated when I see it coming in, guys. Again, this was it was started as a kind of a selfish act. I was acting upon my own experience, but it soon went into what is now a very selfless act where I give up a lot of my bloody time to this campaign to undo this injustice that's been unfolded on so many people in our society. It's just really unfair. Like, I just hate seeing it happen. Like these people, you know, I don't know if it's true, like some of these stories, you know, people having such an addiction where they get indebted to 50, 60, 70 grand to drug dealers. Like, would you be that stupid as a drug dealer, like, to let a fella to get into that way? Maybe you want control over this guy. Maybe you want to manipulate him. Like, maybe there's that aspect of it, that angle of it from the drug dealer's side of it. But I just can't understand how a drug dealer would allow it. Like, I just have to think that maybe some of these stories are kind of porky pies. Podge saying I got ripped off from the dark web was the last time. That's a bummer to hear. Like, the dark web is normally reliable, but sometimes, yeah, it's not always foolproof, I suppose. Sorry, getting a pop-up there on my screen. Grow your own, guys. That's it, Podge. You tell him. 100%, man. And Hype TCK saying, I used to be that fuck it guy. No, it's showing up your hole. Good to hear that, Hype TCK. Definitely, man. And name and shame these people as well when they do it. As I say, I was very tempted to do it to the person who sent me the Snapchat because it was a direct one. It wasn't even just up in their story. Like, it was a direct message to me, and I was just like, stop. Like, 2.8 for 50 quid. Jog on. Oh, man. DB Woodcraft, did you get my message email from last week? I didn't actually, DB. I didn't see any email pop up there. Did you send it to Martin's World podcast? Because I did go and check after the show last week, and I meant to follow up with you, but I didn't see any email there in my inbox from you, and I didn't see it pop up in my spam either, so I didn't get diverted. So just wondering if maybe you sent it to the right email. But if you want to resend it there again and see if it comes through, but it's martinsworldpodcast@gmail.com. But no, I didn't see any email there from you last week, and apologies for not following up there to inquire as to what it was about. Man, last time was the same Podge CBD wax, £40 a gram. Oh man, that's a bummer. I actually have some of that there as well from the boys at Irish Hemp Harvest. I don't know where the package is. It's around there as well. They sent me down some CBD wax. Onshore footage show all been jacking mobile homes and digging holes. Good 15 kilometres of feeding the birds yesterday. Catch up later. Hope's all good. And the news was as pretty as possible. Yeah, nice one there for popping in, Monshore. And good to hear that you're out there working hard, man. Fair play. And DB, yeah, no worries. You'll resend it. Legend. Nice one for that. Right, so guys, that's me up to date there on your comments. Apologies if you got some comments earlier in the show, any questions that I might have missed, and apologies for not getting to them. Nice one, everybody, for tuning in. Again, a nice large audience out there today throughout the main part of the show. As I was delivering the news, I noticed like almost 60 people in the audience at one point in time. So thanks very much, guys. It's really great to see such an interest in the show. And as I say, I will continue to strive to try to make it better, to continue to give it as much time as I can to prepare for it. But again, as you know, being a dad, a student, and an activist, sometimes that time just isn't always possible to be given to the show. As I said, taking part in a little interview there before the show and having some appointments there with my kids this morning in the hospital. You know, it does be busy. Going to be down doing a bit of Thai boxing this evening, and then come back and write up some college lab reports, man, and done and dusted. Day in the life of Marty. So guys, keep it lit out there. Yes, definitely keep it lit. As who was that getting that one in? DB Woodcraft, keep it lit. And Miss Stone's also getting in the last comment saying a lot of activism in the community came with a lot of ego, but it's nice to be able to listen to someone who is religiously putting in time, in the time and effort for something we all love and want reform for. Thanks very much, Miss Stone, for the very nice comments coming in there. And Hebsy Girl also saying, good show, Martin, and thank you. Not a bother at all. And Irish Hemp Harvest getting in the last comment saying, share the show with your friends, guys. Every stoner in Ireland should be watching this show. And Skitana saying, well said, Miss Stone. And thanks, Martin, for a great show today. And thanks for another great show. Guys, thanks for being a great audience, all of you. Much appreciated to you all. So stay blazed out there, guys, and keep her lit. I'll be back again on Friday with more 420 news for you great and beautiful people out there. So much love to y'all, and peace. Oh my, yeah, there we go. Good luck, guys.